Hey guys, today we're going to be testing out a Kullervo build. This build basically asks the question, what if Kullervo decided to not use melee weapons and just smite people out of existence? So this is the reality erasure Kullervo that I like to call it. But basically we're going to be using Smite and instead of his fourth ability. So as you know, a Smite deals a portion of the health damage, so it's a percentage based damage. And the thing with percentage based damage is like even if you put on a ton of strength, you will only have certain health dropped and not just everything killed, so I'll show it to you. So basically this is a level 150 corrupted heavy gunner, and even if we decide to smite them, you can see they get 10 radiation procs and a certain portion of their health is removed. If they have Overguard, the Overguard gets removed. That is basically how Smite works. It's the home for Oberon. And most people think that Smite only works on certain frames as long as they can break the barriers. So like with enough strength you can definitely increase this, but you can't fully kill them. And I'll test that out. It doesn't matter if you use any of other Kullervo abilities, like we can just a curse on them, and you can still see that didn't do that much damage, and yeah, that basically is nothing. And yes, if you didn't know Kullervo's abilities, I'll explain them to you in brief. There we go. Wrathful Advance is basically his teleport, so it's a mobility slash a melee based ability. The reason we put Smite over his 4 is mostly for modding later, which I'll explain. Recompense is his ability, which is survivability, keeps him alive. You throw out spectral daggers, and these daggers give you Overguard for the amount of enemies hit. And Collective Curse is basically a chaining ability, so the amount of damage you do to one person, the same damage goes on to every person in a chain. So if you deal 100% of the damage to the first enemy or any of the enemy's chain, it'll do the same amount of damage to the rest of them. So the common misconception people have for Smite is like if you put on enough strength, it should kill everything. Which you can try it out, like let's go for Rumble Intensify. Just put on strength for everything basically. This is just to show you that, you know, it doesn't really work that way as people think it does. Like sure. Might as well. We could put on precision, but I'll just show you for this right now. Yeah, nope, we don't have anything else. We could put on Molt on this, but you'll see that it won't really matter that much. There we go, we have energy conversion activated, and I'll go to like a near health enemy. And you can see that full health, and if I press 4, yeah, it certainly deals more damage, and if you put on collective curse, and if I just go there, get some energy for energy conversion, and I decide to just, yeah, it's certainly dealing more damage as you can see, but it doesn't kill them. So it doesn't matter how much strength you put on it, you're not gonna kill him. So what this build usually people do is they require a primer like a Panzerwolperfile, a Deriga, which procs a lot of statuses on the enemy. Because if you have status on the first enemy, let's say Viral for example is one of the best, so if you go with Embolist, this is a really good primer by the way. It's, my friend recommended this to me, and yeah, it's really good for testing out builds and such. But yeah, basically if you have enough if you have 10 stacks of Viral, it does multiplicative damage. 10 stacks of Viral, and as you can see that just deletes it. And this does apply when you have Collective Curse. You can just ignore that enemy that fell, and you can see it just kills the rest of them. I'll show it on these guys as well, because we don't have enough energy, ignore that. As I said, I'll show it on these enemies as well. Just collect. You don't only have to damage one of the enemies in the chain, and just... yeah, so this requires a primer, and the thing with primers is, in theory, they work pretty well. I mean, even in mission they work well, but for a more simpler build which requires like less brain power, because if you enjoy the gameplay loop, please definitely go with the primers and such. The companions are really good. They add like another way of, you know, just playing the game, looking out for people which have statuses on them, or use like any sort of primer like the Embolist, NUKE, the Epitaph. They all work pretty well. Because depending on how much strength you pile on this guy, it will depend on like how much, you know, viral stacks you need on him. It doesn't require that much. But 10 stacks just means, you know, way more multiplicative damage, so yeah. But today, we're going in a different way, because the build that we have for Smite does not require any sort of primer. So give me a second to set it up. Do this. Okay, so as I was saying, so the build we're going to be using is this build. Now let me tell you that the aura slot and the exo slot are fully up to choice. I've generally put these because I just like having some sort of energy regen. You could use energy siphon if you want, you can use anything. These two are fully open. I would say if you just prefer having more strength, go for growing power or corrosive projection just to have funny numbers. Go, yeah. Sprint boost if you just like having more sprint speed. This is what I was running for a while, but I prefer having more sense of energy regen. As you can see, we're going mostly for range instead of strength, and I will show you why. Duration is not per se needed, but I will definitely say have a bit of it. Yeah. So this build does not require any sort of, as you can see, we don't need that much duration, because the only reason we need duration for is mostly these two abilities, because you'll have enough time to kill with Collective Curse. As you can see, 21 seconds is very enough. Like, it's way over, we don't need that many seconds, but it's mostly for recompense and Wrathful Advance. You'll have still 8.5 seconds, so you could still go with like a good enough melee weapon, and a recompense has 21 seconds, so you'll have good enough survivability. As you can see, I've left out one Arcane slot, and this is to show you that even with this build, doesn't mean that you're going to be killing enemies outright, because we still need primers, or, you know, in some way or form, we do need to prime enemies, or have a way of killing them outright, because we're not running Roar on this, because the helmet ability is Smite, and I will be showing you why. Because even if we go there, as you can see, yeah. Sure, it does a good amount of damage, even if you chain enemies. Yeah, see, like, you're doing good enough damage. It's not really bad sort of damage. And you still need a primer for it. See, it does require a primer, it's inconsistent, and for Kullervo it's not the best build. But even if you stack up Mold Augmented or anything, if you just go for more strength, it doesn't really matter, as I explained. But for our primer, we're going to be going with a certain Arcane, which is not used per se that much, and that is Truculence. Now what Truculence does is when you gain 3000 or more Overguard, it releases a 30-meter radial attack that applies max viral. So you're putting on 10 stacks of viral in a 30-meter radius as soon as you gain 3000 or more Overguard. So every time your Overguard reaches more than 3000, it's going to send out a radial pulse in an AoE for 30 meters. And the way it helps is because now you don't require a primer, because your survivability is doing the priming for you. That is why we're using Volatile Recompense, because instead of spamming the ability, it just spins around. So basically 20 seconds of you gaining Overguard. And you can definitely take this build into endurance missions. I've tried it and it worked great for me. If you think it's lacking a bit, you can definitely go for the Rolling Guard over any of the abilities. I would say you can go a bit less on strength, but then, you know, I didn't test out everything. You can drop Umbral Intensify for precision if you go lower on strength and you can't kill anymore. I will say don't drop any range, because this is meant to be a nuke build. Duration is good enough, because you still do need to require recompense and collective curse duration. And these two are totally up to you, as I said. You can put on anything. I just put on rush because I like it. Sure-footed, you don't need it because you're two as soon as you gain Overguard. And the way this works is, let me show it to y'all. Just come here. Okay. I press my 2000. That's the radial pulse, and now everybody's 10 stack. And it's gonna keep going for every 3000 of them. And yeah. Hell, it even killed it with those enemies. And yeah, they're radial pulse. It just depends on chaining, but as you can see, when you reach the Overguard cap for it, for Kullervo, it does stop working. But that is because in the Simulacrum, it will stop working eventually, because you're gonna hit your Overguard cap pretty soon, like 17.9k. But in an actual mission, the enemies will keep on attacking you, so if we just go here, kill everybody. We'll unpause the AI. Yeah, you can just take this. Let him come to you. Do this. As soon as the radial pulse starts, just chain them. You can see, kill them. Chain them. Yeah, just need to chain it. You can see it doesn't have static sets. Now it does. We can kill it. That's why we have a bit of efficiency, because as long as you're killing, you're not gonna, as long as you have a 2 on, you're not gonna die. And you know, as the more you're chaining, you know, the better it will work. And this build requires you to take damage, so you know, you still gotta take some amount of damage. Actually, not the enemies, but yeah, there we go. Chill. It's a really good build. I really enjoyed it. And you can still go with like, this is a trade-off, as most people, you know, utility doesn't really help that much. It gives you powerful velocity. And this is an amazing build. This is one of like the most enjoyable Kullervo builds that I've had recently. Like, I have preferred this over melee build because the thing is, when you're playing Kullervo, you do get bored of the melee playstyle. I mean, you can definitely mess around with different kind of melee weapons. So you're really open to primaries and secondaries, but what I've preferred is mostly Sileted, because you can group up enemies, dual vices, because this is mostly for another build. It's a research build, so if y'all want to see a funny, like, dumb build, let me know. And the Trumna Prime is just, you know, an AoE weapon that I preferred, that you can do like a really solid amount of damage with the ult fire. So if you have Collective Curse on, you know, might as well. Because your main way of killing, you know, for AoE is definitely going to be the Smite build. So you can definitely go with any, like, you can go with any single target damage gun, like the Felarx or the Vidar era. You can go with the Electron, like anything. This is open. This is purely on choice, and this is also open. You can go with the Praetos for more particle velocity and sprint speed. You can go Wysis if you actually want, like, you know, more gas and melee influence stuff. Or you could go for any other weapon that you prefer on Kullervo, because he still has 8 seconds, so yeah, you can still kill and you won't die. For Archon shards, I would definitely say go for at least 2 casting speeds. That is because like 1 casting speed is necessary so you don't die, because if you can press 2, you do require like casting speed so you can, you know, activate it faster, because in high level missions you don't want to, like, as soon as your Overguard breaks, you have a certain time for the Overguard break basically, so you're invincible for like a couple of seconds, so you need to press 2 again and not die in that amount of time. So 1 is necessary, 2 is like probably the best option. The rest 3 are generally your choice. The reason I went for 2 equilibrium shards is, you know, again, for just quality of life. You can go with 1. I would say pretty sure I'd say go with 1 Tau Forge purple shard for equilibrium. Or you can just, like, I've went some more on casting speed because I just prefer having more casting speed. But what you can do is have 1 purple shard for equilibrium and 2 for melee damage, because he's already going above the energy limit for the purple Archon shard, giving like more melee critical damage if you go above the 500 limit, so you can definitely go with that. And I'll be showing off this build to you in an actual mission, because, I mean, sure, I'll show this build to you here as well, and then we can go into an actual mission and you can see how good it is. The reason we're going for Nautilus is generally for warming up. As you can see, I didn't even prop. Yeah, do remember to have your 2 turned on, and check out for radar pulse. Yeah, you can see, like, this is a pretty simple build. Part 1, press 3. It's pretty consistent. The only thing I gotta watch out for is, do they have viral stacks or not? Like, and yeah. That is generally the only reason that we're running Truculence. I mean, Truculence is really good on Kullervo normally. Like, people have showed that you can just like stack viral on enemies by just pressing a 2, and with Volatile it's become insanely good. So I'll be showing this to you in an actual game now, so you can enjoy the gameplay in the background.
Your enemies have grown fierce. Use all that you have learned.